Hello and welcome to Brian Hetrich. Welcome to all of you who have joined us today. I'm so delighted that you were able to make it to hear from such an extraordinary man. Thank you so much again for all of you being here, and want to welcome very warmly Brian Hetrich, who's made such a generous contribution to the online program as a master gardener, a master sprouter, an author, a lecturer, an educator at the highest level, and also a person who's just enthusiastic and self-motivated to achieve optimal health on every level imaginable. Brian Hetrich is also a naturopathic doctor and has devoted a number of years to the Hippocrates Health Institute, the Hippocrates lifestyle, and boy, I could just keep going on about how wonderful Brian Hetrich is. And we're so blessed to have him today for 60 minutes to tell us a little bit about himself, and also to talk about the power of living food, in particular sprouts, and to have you all ask questions about the Hippocrates lifestyle, growing, and whatever may be on your mind. So I'm going to hand the call over to Brian. Thank you so much again for being here.
Hi, Jen. You're welcome. It's great to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. As Jen mentioned, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm also a master grower. I'm a gourmet raw vegan chef, and I'm very, very excited about this lifestyle. I've been 100% raw now for 10 years personally, and it's the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. And as a result of that, I decided to make a career change years ago, and went back and re-educated myself and transitioned from the corporate world into the world of lifestyle medicine, the natural healing arts, which is where my true passion lies and where what I've dedicated my life to. So I'm so glad that you all could join us. I would like to start off by talking about wheatgrass. Specifically, what it is about wheatgrass that makes your skin glow, what makes you lose weight, and how it boosts your immune system and your mental clarity, and how sprouts boost your vitality and give you energy. And then we're going to have a Q&A at the end of it all. But let's start with wheatgrass. Wheatgrass juice is nature's finest medicine. It's our signature elixir at Hippocrates. It's been my privilege, and I do consider it a privilege, to have served as the greenhouse manager at Hippocrates. And it's a privilege because to work in the greenhouse where you're growing sprouts and wheatgrass is unlike any other kind of profession. I love plants. I love to be outside. I love to be in the garden. And when you're growing sprouts, you're growing a very, very thick concentration of plants. So, for example, a single tray of wheatgrass contains about 30,000 seeds, individual plants. That means the greenhouse at Hippocrates contains over 20 million different living plants in it. And that's life. That's life force energy. So if you can imagine, and some of you may have experienced this and can appreciate it, maybe going to a sporting event in a major stadium, where maybe there's 50,000 fans, or maybe going to a concert or going into a church, where there's a few hundred people, or in the case of a concert, maybe a few thousand people. You can feel the energy when you walk into a venue like that. Everybody has shown up with the same intention. There's a lot of life there. And, even before the performance begins, or before the lecture begins, or before the sermon begins, or before the game begins, you can just feel a certain energy as you walk into the stadium and you find your seat, and all these people around you are with anticipation of what's about to happen. That's the way it is when you walk into the greenhouse at Hippocrates Health Institute, or any greenhouse for that matter, but in particular a sprout house. Because of the amount of plants in there, it's almost like a concert is about ready to begin, and it's all about life. This is a living foods program, and I know that sounds like a quaint catchline, but it's it's for real. This is something that Anne Wigmore discovered. This is something that Viktoras Klavinskis has validated. It's something that Brian Clement, very, very strongly believes in. It's something that I very strongly believe in. So compare and contrast the feeling that you get when you walk into a sporting event stadium where there's maybe 50,000 people there versus 20 million living organisms in a single room that's maybe 30 feet by 60 feet. That's a tremendous amount of energy. It's a great place to meditate. It's a great place to connect. The oxygen concentration in there is amazing. So what is it about wheatgrass that makes your skin glow? Well, the chlorophyll in the wheatgrass, and wheatgrass is an excellent source of chlorophyll. It's not the highest source of chlorophyll. All green plants contain chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is a phytonutrient. Phyto meaning it's a plant nutrient, and only plants can transform the sun's energy into fuel that our cells can use through the process of photosynthesis. And the photosynthesis that captures the sun's light and creates color. And some plants create green, some create red, some create yellow, some create purple, some create blue. And so when you're eating these colorful plants, like the green in dark leafy greens and lettuce and kale and collards and bok choy, and drinking the green chlorophyll that's in the wheatgrass juice, you're painting the inside of your body with the full spectrum of frequencies that comes from the sun. And so chlorophyll, and this is a reminder, if your cell phone is not on mute, if you could please go ahead and place it on mute until we get to the Q&A time. We'll have plenty of time to get some feedback from you. We're getting a little bit of static. So the chlorophyll carries with it, among other things, oxygen really, really well. And it's this oxygen that makes your skin glow. Now, why does that happen? Well, two things happen when you drink wheatgrass juice. One is that, and some of this might be a review for some of you, maybe, hopefully there'll be some new information for some of you. One of the things is that wheatgrass does is dilates your blood vessels. That means it relaxes your blood vessels so that blood can flow more smoothly. And this way, you can get blood to parts of your body that otherwise wouldn't get the blood that it needs. You have 70,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. Most of those blood vessels are microscopically small, so tiny that blood cell can pass blood vessel single file, and some of these blood vessels are very, very close to the surface of your skin. And the other thing that wheatgrass does, because it carries oxygen so well, is that oxygen electrifies your red blood cells. Your red blood cells have hemoglobin, which means iron. And as you know, when you infuse iron with oxygen, it begins to glow a brighter red. And so you have these thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles of blood vessels running throughout your body, some of which are very close to the surface of your skin. Now your blood is flowing more smoothly because your blood vessels are dilated, and your red blood cell corpuscles are glowing a bright red color, which makes you glow. And you can tell when somebody's been drinking wheatgrass juice because of that glow. And that's a healthy glow, and it's a sign of someone who is a serious health seeker. Now, how does wheatgrass make you lose weight? Well, another action that wheatgrass does is it's what we call an astringent. It has an astringent effect, which is similar to sucking a lemon or drinking lemon juice. Lemon juice also has an astringent effect on the body. An astringent makes you pucker up. It makes your lips pucker. It makes your mouth pucker. It makes your stomach pucker. That means it causes it to shrivel up. And it's this astringent effect or this shriveling up effect that shrinks your stomach. And the shrinking of your stomach gives you this full feeling like you don't need to eat food for a while, and so that it satiates your appetite in this way. And so you get by, you get through the day with having less calories. So after you've had a shot of wheatgrass juice, then you feel satiated for a while, like you don't need to eat. And that means fewer calories throughout the day, which is going to result in weight loss. This astringent effect and this puckering effect that goes on from drinking the wheatgrass juice is also the mechanism that helps to detoxify you. So wheatgrass juice does two things. Number one, it's a powerful concentrated liquid nutrient. It's also a powerful detoxifier. It will suck heavy metals, pollution, poison, toxins out of your tissues and attach itself to them like a magnet to get them out of your body. And how does wheatgrass, how does it boost your mental clarity? Again, it really comes down to the oxygen carrying ability of wheatgrass, the chlorophyll in the wheatgrass to be specific. So your brain works on oxygen. You need oxygen in order to feed your brain cells. So the more oxygen you can feed your brain cells with, then the better your memory is going to become, and the better your mental clarity will become and your mental acuity, so that you can, speak in a fluent fashion, in a flowing fashion. And so these are just a few of the things. These are just a few of the benefits about wheatgrass. All green plants contain chlorophyll. That magic phytonutrient. You could be juicing barley grass. You could be juicing ryegrass and drinking the green juice from those. You could, any edible grass, you could be juicing and get a similar effect. There are 4,000 different varieties of grasses out there. All of them are edible. It just so happens that wheatgrass happens to be the sweetest of the grasses. We can thank Anne Wigmore for making wheatgrass juice popular in the modern times. She did not invent wheatgrass juice. Wheatgrass has been used for many, many thousands of years. The Essenes, over 2,500 years ago, are recorded as using wheatgrass for healing properties. The Essenes were known as the healers of their time. And it's been recorded that not only did the Essenes use the wheatgrass for consumption, but they also used the grasses therapeutically in an energetic way. So what they would do is they would grow a tuft of grass, like wheatgrass, or a similar kind of a grass, maybe about the size that would fit in a 4-inch round pot. And they would let it grow to be about, 6 to 7 inches high. And then they had a ceremony, a tradition of clasping this clump of grass with both hands, holding the grass in the middle, and holding on to it for several minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then they would enter a meditative state, and they would begin to sense the energy coming from these living organisms. And they would begin to get a download, basically, from the universal consciousness or from the universe or from God or whatever your belief system will support, through the grasping of this wheatgrass. And I actually told this story one time when I was working at Hippocrates, and about how the wheatgrass can transmit energetically through the skin this way. And I had a guest come up to me after the class, and she had terrible psoriasis on the skin. And if anybody has not placed their phone on mute yet, that would be great if you could do so. We're still getting quite a bit of static across the line. It might be prohibiting some people from hearing all of the content. and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So this poor lady had terrible psoriasis on her legs, and she showed them to me, and her legs were red and they were inflamed. They were angry with psoriasis. So she wanted to try lying down on the cut root mats of the wheatgrass. So I don't know if you all are aware of this or not, but at Hippocrates we have a designated nude sunbathing area on the roof of the hacienda, and it's usually for women only, but I don't think they really differentiate it that way. But there is a sign there saying designated nude sunbathing area, use at your own discretion or something to that effect. And there's a spiral staircase that goes up to the roof of the hacienda for this purpose. And they have lounge chairs up there, and they have umbrellas. And so she asked me if I could bring a dozen or so cut root mats of wheatgrass from the greenhouse to the roof of the hacienda so that she could lay down on them for a while. And so we made arrangements the next morning to do so. And, I brought these spent root mats over to the hacienda. We had a lady go up and check just to do a little scouting mission to make sure the coast was clear. And then once we determined it was okay, then I brought the root mats up there, and we laid them down and made kind of like a little mattress on the ground of these spent root mats. And then I left, and this lady, we'll call her Jane. I don't remember her name now. Maybe she's on the call today. I don't know. But she proceeded to lay down on these root mats, disrobed, and then go through her ritual. And I presume that she laid down on them for half hour or 45 minutes or something like that, just doing a little sunbathing. The next day, just like 24 hours later, she literally chased me down inside Wigmore Hall, and she said, Brian, you're not going to believe this, but my psoriasis are better. So she pulled up her pants leg a little bit to her knee, and she showed me her psoriasis. And sure enough, I saw it with my own eyes. This is no exaggeration, but her psoriasis had not disappeared, but it was significantly better. It had gone from a very angry-looking red inflamed state to kind of a light pink sort of state. It was clearly and dramatically better. And she admitted that, we don't know what all did this. She's drinking the wheatgrass juice, she's drinking the green things, she's eating the sprouts, and she's having all this raw food. So we don't know exactly what the contribution was, but she was convinced that lying down on these cut root mats of wheatgrass had a contributing effect. So I have so many stories like that of amazing healing recovery from my time that I spent at Hippocrates that I sometimes like to share these stories, not only to inspire others, but to remind myself of, just how effective this program is with everybody. So let's talk a little bit about sprouts. So sprouts are a living food. Sprouts are still growing at the time of consumption. Sprouts are also a powerhouse of nutrition, but they contain concentrated amounts of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and enzymes. But they also contain something else. They contain life force energy, the spark of life, bioelectricity. These are secret nutrients that defy classification even to this day. They're still growing at the time of consumption. And life begets life. The sprouts are alive and you're alive. The more living foods you put into your body at the expense of non-living foods, the more alive you become. This is the secret behind the vitality. When you're eating sprouts, the nutrients are in a very easy to digest form. They're kind of in a pre-digested form. Very, very high in enzymes. And when your body doesn't need to spend its energy on digestion as much, then it can use that excess energy for other things, for healing, for thinking, for exercising, for playing, and for increasing. This is where your increased vitality comes from. You're not only spending less energy on digestion, but you're also gaining energy from the bioelectricity that you're consuming in the form of these living food. And so this is how you also gain energy. When you're on the standard American diet, about 60% of your total body's available energy is expended on digestion. When you go on a raw food diet, that number goes down to about 20%. So this means a huge surplus in excess energy is now available for doing other things besides digestion. And so you're going to have more energy throughout your day. You're not going to feel that slump, but you're supplying your body with plenty of nutrients, plenty of protein, plenty of carbohydrates, plenty of essential fatty acids, and plenty of minerals when you're eating your food in the sprouted form. You can sprout any edible plant, and there are at least 60,000 edible plants that scientists have identified on the planet today. So all you need to do is get the seed from one of those edible plants and germinate it, and you have a sprout. You have something that is a baby plant in its prime. And baby plants in their prime, in the first few days of gestation, reach a peak of nutritional concentration that the plant will never again experience for the rest of its life. And that's the point where we consume it. So we're getting concentrated nutrients. Not all calories are created equal. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to have a calorie-poor, nutrient-rich diet. So if we were to express this in the form of an equation, the equation would be H equals N over C. H is health, N is nutrients, and C is calories. So the higher the proportion of nutrients per calorie, then the greater your health will become. So what I hope to convey to you today, and what I try to convey to my clients in my own private practice today, is the correlation between superior nutrition and superior health. Most people, I believe, cannot grasp just how powerful the living foods and the green drinks and the wheatgrass juice can be. If they knew how powerful it was, then they would be doing this. They would do whatever it takes to actually consume more sprouts and consume more green drinks, more energy. We've all been told from a very early age to eat your fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are good for you. And, years ago, it used to be the government standard was 5 a day. Try to eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. And then a few years ago, they changed it and they said 7 a day. So now we're up to 7. So everybody, every doctor, every sports coach, every nutritionist will tell you, eat your fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are good for you. So why not eat fruits and vegetables to the exclusion of all others? If this is a case where if a little bit is good, a lot is better, or exclusively eating fruits and vegetables are better. And then the next thing to consider is, what is the best form to eat your fruits and vegetables? And the best form to eat your fruits and vegetables is in the raw form. And that means not processed, no heat applied, no steaming, no boiling, no baking, no frying, no grilling. Eat it in its raw form. Cooking does not add any nutrients to food. In fact, it takes nutrients away from food, and it creates twisted carbohydrates, twisted fats, and twisted proteins, which become a burden to the body. And it also creates carcinogens, which are a cancer-causing agent. It causes teratogens, which are known to cause birth defects in pregnant women. So raw is best, and even better than raw is living raw, which means sprouts. Now, you can eat living foods that are not in the sprouted form as well. If you have your own garden and you were to go outside and you were to pick a leaf of lettuce directly off the plant and eat it right away, that is the same as a living food. Or better yet, just eat it without even picking it. Eat it right off the plant. Or an apple, if you have an apple tree in your yard or you have access to an apple orchard. Rather than pick the apple and put it in a box and ship it halfway around the world and put it on a supermarket shelf and then sell it to a consumer who eats it months later, months after being picked. If you're able to eat the apple right off the tree, that is also a living food. It's still connected to its root. It's connected to its life support system. And then you're getting the maximum benefit of these foods. The things that boost our immune system, are very delicate, and they are very time and heat sensitive. So things that boost our immune system include things like phytonutrients. Phytonutrients, things like chlorophyll in green plants, lycopene in red and orange plants, and beta-carotene in orange and yellow plants, actually mimic the T cells, and the lymphocytes, which are in your immune system. And they will seek out and destroy viruses, bacteria, pathogenic bacteria, mold, and mildew, and other things that are in the body that would try to weaken the body. They have an antioxidant effect in the body. So an antioxidant, it seeks out and destroys free radicals. So a free radical is a substance, a compound that is missing an electron pair. It's an unstable molecule. So it is like an energy vampire. It will, once it enters the body, once a free radical enters the body, it will attempt to steal an electron pair from a healthy molecule in order to stabilize itself. And when it steals that electron pair from a healthy molecule, it creates a new free radical. So this becomes like a chain reaction inside the body, and this goes on until that free radical encounters an antioxidant. An antioxidant has a spare electron pair, which it willingly gives up in order to neutralize the free radicals. So antioxidants we get from sprouts, we get them from drinking green juices, from wheatgrass juice, and from eating raw foods, especially the dark leafy greens. We get free radicals from smoking cigarettes, from drinking alcohol, from eating cooked food. Cooking food creates free radicals. Even things like stress. Stress can create free radicals in the body, and the body is perfectly capable of dealing with a limited amount of free radicals. Once we reach a tipping point where the body has too many free radicals to cope with, then that's when disease begins to get a foothold and starts to set in. So the more antioxidants we can get into the body, then the better off we're going to be. Now, there's another source of living foods that I'd like to talk about very briefly before we move on to the Q&A section, and that is spirulina and blue-green algae. So the algae, like chlorella and blue-green algae and spirulina, are superfoods. We've known about them for a really, really long time. The Aztecs used spirulina for many, many centuries to basically as a food source and to give them energy. Today we commonly distribute, the algae, the blue-green algae, the spirulina, the chlorella, in a powdered form or a tablet form or in a frozen form. So spirulina, blue-green algae, is the highest source of protein on the planet. It is 60 to 70% protein. That's higher than a T-bone steak. A T-bone steak is about 20%, 19 or 20% protein. And it's in a very easy to assimilate form. It is a fundamental food. It's at the very bottom of the food chain. Spirulina is a single-celled organism that has not yet decided whether it wants to be a plant or an animal. It has over 100 different nutraceuticals. It is an excellent source of chlorophyll, just like wheatgrass. In fact, it has 10 times the amount of chlorophyll that wheatgrass has in it. Every single bit of blue-green algae, spirulina, chlorella you've ever had in your life, most likely, has been completely cooked or frozen, which destroys most of the nutraceuticals in it. Unless you've had the rare privilege of having raw living spirulina. Spirulina is a freshwater algae. It grows in warm water. It needs light. It needs a very highly alkaline condition in order to grow, about 10 pH. And it also needs warmth in order to grow. And it needs oxygen in order to grow. It produces its own oxygen. As a matter of fact, spirulina is responsible for 95% of the planet's oxygen. So the spirulina is, or I should say, to be more precise, algae, which there are hundreds of different varieties of algae, are responsible for 95% of the planet's oxygen. There are only 4 types of algae that are edible. There's only one type of algae that's been grass certified by the FDA. Grass means generally recognized as safe, and that's spirulina. So I've had the very great privilege of visiting a spirulina farm as well, where they grow and distribute raw living spirulina. It makes all the difference in the world. It's like night and day when you have the raw living spirulina versus the dried powder or the frozen variety of blue-green algae. And I just wanted to add this point because we're talking about living foods. And we started out the conversation, I was telling you the story about what it feels like to walk into the greenhouse at Hippocrates. And I have to tell you that you get a very similar kind of feeling when you walk into the greenhouse at an algae farm that's growing raw living spirulina, because a single greenhouse, which is what they call a raceway pond, they grow this in the oval ponds which are enclosed at raw living spirulina in Vero Beach, Florida. A single pond has over 1 trillion living organisms in it. Now that's a lot of life force energy. And I can feel it when I walk into one of these greenhouses that has over 1 trillion living organisms in it, that amount of energy that's there. But I often don't share it because, there's always an element of doubt in the back of your mind. Is this my imagination? Is this some sort of placebo effect? But it's not just me. I get the same kind of information, the same kind of feedback from every other person that steps into one of these greenhouses that's growing the raw living spirulina. They feel, as I do, a certain kind of energy that's in there. It's like, imagine going to a concert or a sporting event in a major stadium where there's not 50,000 people, but there's 1 trillion people in the audience. And they're all there with the same intent, life. And that's what it's all about. And when you put that life into your body, then you become more alive. Believe me, this is something that I've experienced over and over and over again. People feeling the amount of life force energy going into them. A single tablespoon of raw living spirulina has 1.5 billion living organisms in it. And their sole intent is the propagation of life, the continuation of life. Now, you put that into your body, and you're not only getting 60 to 70% protein, you're not only getting a massive dose of vitamins and minerals, but you're also getting that bioelectricity, that life force energy, giving you mental clarity, making your skin glow, making you lose weight. I'll tell you just one more story, and then we'll move on to the Q&A session. So I have a friend of mine who went on a raw living spirulina fast for a month. He ate nothing but raw living spirulina in coconut water. He had no food for 30 days. He did a blood test at the beginning and a blood test at the end. His iron content went up 33% in 30 days. Now, I got to tell you, I've been in this business now for a long time. That is amazing. There's no supplement that I know of, there's no food that I know of that can increase your iron content 33% in 30 days. And yet I've seen it with my own eyes. And I believe my friend has posted these test results on his website, rawlivingspirulina.com, for the world to see if you want to check it out. I'd like to open up the teleconference to questions. I don't know, how do you want to do this, Jen? Because we probably want to do this in an orderly fashion. If anybody has any questions.
Right, so just usually one person will speak up, and then if there are two people that speak up, then one person just respectfully, just waits. There's going to be a lot of questions. So does that work for you, Brian?
I have a suggestion. Why don't we go alphabetically, and let's start with the A's and ask if anybody with a last name that starts with A can go ahead and unmute and go ahead and ask your question. Then we'll move on to the B's, and we'll go as quickly through the 26 letters of the alphabet and see if we can get to Z. Okay, so anybody with a last name that starts with A, please, and if you have a question, please go ahead. Going once? Going twice? Okay, let's go to the B's. Anybody with a last name that ends with D, have a question, please go ahead and unmute and ask away. All right, anybody with C, a last name that starts with C? How about D? Not a lot of questions. How about E? Let's go to F. How about G? Okay, so how about if we do this? Anybody with any questions at all, it doesn't matter what your last name starts with. Go ahead and unmute and ask.
I've got one. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, sure. And can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, sir. My name is Hunter Moss. I'm currently taking the Living Foods program online course right now.
Hi, Hunter. It's great to meet you over the phone.
Yeah, great to talk to you after watching your videos. It's kind of cool. So I got two questions. One, they recommended in the course to take the frozen algae. I mean, obviously, I know that that's not the most ideal source you can get it from, but is there any way to get the live algae other than being directly on where it's being processed? I guess.
That's an excellent question, Hunter, and the answer is yes. So if you go to rawlivingspirulina.com, they will ship to your U.S. address in a insulated box with ice packs, second day FedEx, so that it will arrive fresh and it will arrive cold. You only need about a tablespoon a day, unless you're using it for therapeutic purposes, in which case you might want to go to 2 or 3 tablespoons a day. But for maintenance purposes, 1 tablespoon a day is fine. But let me emphasize that this is not to say that the frozen spirulina is no good. It's not to say the powdered spirulina is no good, or the blue-green algae, or the chlorella. These algae have been one of the most or the most researched supplements and food supplements on the market in history. Spirulina is the subject of over 1,200 peer-reviewed studies. And everything from treating colds and flus to inflammation to arthritis to Alzheimer's to Lyme's disease. And these studies have shown an improvement, and even cancer. They've shown an improvement, and these studies were done using frozen and powdered spirulina. So if this is effective in the frozen and the powdered form, you can only imagine what it's like in the raw living form. But I would not, if you can't get it in the raw living form, for whatever reason, if you live outside the United States, for example, well, only shipped to the 48 contiguous states, then I would not discourage you from having the powdered and the frozen variety. One thing to keep in mind about spirulina is that 95% of the powdered spirulina that's distributed commercially is grown in one of four places: India, China, California, and Hawaii. And to the best of my knowledge, all of it is grown in open ponds that are exposed to the elements. So spirulina is like a sponge. It will absorb anything around it. So it's very important to grow it in as clean an environment as possible, using filtered water and, apart from air pollution that might contaminate the spirulina. Now, we all know that, parts of China has a serious air pollution problem. And if the water contains any heavy metals, any lead or mercury, that's going to wind up in the spirulina, so you don't want that. Some of the best spirulina is grown in Hawaii if you can't get it in the raw living form. But I would be cautious about, when you buy it, look at the bottle and see where it's sourced from, where it's made from. If it's made in China, I would be a little bit hesitant to try it out unless you could see the water test results. Did you have another question, Hunter?
Yeah, I was just wondering what did you have to eat today? All day. What's been your...
That's a great question. I love it. Well, for breakfast this morning, I had a green juice. I made it home, and I made it very similar to the Hippocrates green juice, only a little bit different. So what I do is cucumber, celery, all organic, and then I'll put in, this morning I put in some cilantro and some curly leaf lettuce, and I put in some ginger and an apple and a lemon. And it was delicious. I drank it right away, probably about 16 ounces. And then for lunch, I made a salad at home. And so the salad was curly leafy lettuce. I put some fresh cilantro in there, some fresh dill, and I put in some sprouts, and I put in some chopped pickle, and then I made a dressing at home. And the dressing was hemp seeds and pickle juice, and I put in some pesto from Glacier Farms. Glacier Farms is a raw food store in Miami, and you can get it at some of the local Whole Foods around here. The pesto was basil, fresh basil in a walnut base, and I think that was it. Oh, and pickle juice. I think I mentioned that. And it was absolutely delicious. So, and I timed it, and I got to tell you that I made that lunch in under 15 minutes. So I hear all the time people saying, I don't have time for this, so I've kind of gotten in the habit of timing myself how long it takes to make a meal, to try to share this with people, to give them encouragement that this is something they could eventually get to or transition to if they wanted to. A lot of this comes down to... Go ahead. I kind of lost you there, Hunter. You're breaking up. Can you say again?
I think I had it on mute. Yeah, I was just going to thank you for your time. I thought you were finished answering the questions. It sounded like you're still about to go on.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Absolutely. Thanks for being on the call, Hunter. Great to meet you.
You as well.
Anyone else have a question? And ask away.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly clear. Thank you.
Great. I'm so glad. Thank you, first of all, for this conference. I was so excited to take part in this.
You're welcome. Carolyn
McAvoy.
What was your name again?
My name is Carolyn McAvoy, and I'm calling from Dallas.
Okay.
And I currently am taking the Hippocrates online course, and I am only on the third module, so I still have quite a bit of ways to go. But I did want to thank you for the quick start guide. I watched your video on getting started with sprouting, and I am already sprouting mung beans, broccoli, lentil, and zucchini beans, so I really appreciate that. What I haven't done yet, and I'm a little timid, is the wheatgrass, but I have purchased your book, Growing Your Own Living Foods, and I have been watching and reading everything as much as I can. It's a very basic question, so you'll have to please excuse my naivete, but after you grow the wheatgrass and you cut it just above the soil line as you instruct, do you toss away the soil that is really thick and heavy with the roots? I mean, can you just compost that? And when you're ready to grow your next batch, just start with fresh soil?
Yes. Here's the rest of the story. Your wheatgrass, you're left behind with a root mat. And that root mat will grow back a second time if you continue to water it. However, the second growth will never get as tall as the first growth, and the point never returns to the blades. The blades will now have a flat from now on. They don't have a pointed tip anymore. And it's only half nutritious. That's the first growth. And the exercise is to maximize the nutrition in you. And plus it will be very, so one of the things about wheatgrass is that it is sweet, or relatively sweet, up until what we call the jointing stage, which is the stage where all plants have a jointing stage. It's the stage where the plant is graduating from a baby to an adult. And right at that point, at the jointing stage, or while it's a baby, is when it's sweetest, and when it's the most nutritious, and when it's the most tender. If you let it grow past the jointing stage, it becomes tough, and it becomes bitter, and it becomes not as nutritious, about half as nutritious. So I recommend composting the spent root mat, and it seems like a waste, but the reality is a single tray of wheatgrass will cost you about $2.50 in terms of variable costs. That's about $2 worth of seeds for a 17 by 17 inch tray, and maybe 25 cents worth of water over the 7-day period, and maybe 25 cents worth of potting mix. So it's not that much of a expense in terms of variable costs. So I recommend always starting fresh. Just harvest it one time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I was really curious about that. Thank you for answering that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Please go ahead and take your phone off of mute and ask away.
Hello, my name is Belinda, and I'm calling from the UK. And I also want to thank you very much for your introduction that you've done. I'm doing the online course, and very clear how to grow sprouts, which is fascinating. And I've also had some success with growing fenugreek, radish, and clover.
Oh, congratulations!
Now, I just have a question about wheatgrass, which is, and it may be further along the course, which as you're talking about wheatgrass, it's a question I have, which is, you said that there were 4 grasses that that are health giving. Wheatgrass has to be made into a juice. Now, my understanding is that grass, as in the grass that grows on the lawn or whatever, is actually, you can't digest it. So I'm assuming that wheatgrass is a distant relation of it, but it's different, and it's because it's actually liquid that we can digest it. Is that the case?
That is exactly correct. You cannot digest wheatgrass either. That's why we use the juicer. The reality is, Belinda, you can actually take the grass from your lawn and you can cut it and you can run it through the juicer and you can drink the juice that's created from juicing the grass in your lawn. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless you know that nobody's been adding chemicals to your lawn. And, you also want to be aware of possible, neighbors' dogs or cats, animals,
of course,
treading on the lawn. But, humans don't have the digestive enzyme to break down grass. And it's not just the 4 grasses that I mentioned that you can actually juice. There are hundreds. There's about, I think, 2,000 different varieties of grasses that you can juice, and all of them are good. I just mentioned 4, but bluegrass is a common lawn variety of grass that we use over here, and tall fescue is another one that we use over here, and you can juice them as well. But
wow.
They're all going to be very bitter. That's the difference.
Sure.
Wheatgrass is the sweetest. When Ann Wigmore started this, 60 years ago, she learned her trade from her grandmother, who basically taught her when she was a very little girl in Lithuania about the power of herbs and about the power of plants and specifically the power of grasses, for healing wounded soldiers who were, basically injured in battle, during the First World War in Lithuania. And Ann Wigmore wrote to farmers all over the world 60 years ago and asked them to send her samples of grasses from their country. And then she grew little test batches of these grasses. And then she did a relatively unscientific experiment. She was a lover of animals, and she loved cats, among other things. She had a pet monkey and others. And so she put these test batches of grasses from all over the world that she had grown down on the floor, and then she let her cat go, and the cat went up to each one of these samples of grasses and sniffed them, and then the cat always went back to the wheatgrass and ate it. And then she did the same test with her neighbor's dog. She brought her neighbor's dog into the room, and the dog did the same thing. It would sniff all the different varieties of grasses, but then it would go back to the wheatgrass and it would eat it. She often found that wheatgrass was the sweetest of all the grasses, and that legacy remains with us today. But the reality is they're all good for you. And it's not necessarily that the bitter grass is bad for you. In fact, in Ayurvedic medicine, they say the bitter the better. But sometimes I have a hard enough time getting this into you when it's sweet, let alone when it's bitter. So we use the wheatgrass as kind of a compromise.
I think now this is very interesting, and just slightly sort of moving that slightly sideways is I get hay fever and the various grasses which absolutely get me. I'm assuming that actually if I actually drank the juice of those grasses, that might actually have a homeopathic effect on hay fever.
The hay fever that you're getting is from the pollen that comes from the plant, and but the antidote for the pollen is in the rest of the plant itself. So if you were to juice the wheatgrass, you should be fine. There is a very, very small percentage of the world's population that can't seem to tolerate wheatgrass, but that percentage is very small. It's like 2 or 3%. So I wouldn't say, I would say try it, and if you're, and you should be fine.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with wheatgrass, actually, absolutely fine. I was extrapolating it on to think, well, actually, if I get the grass of the various grasses that I'm allergic to, then actually, and I actually had the juice of that might actually act as the antidote to the hay fever.
Yeah, absolutely.
For future trial, but wheatgrass first.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Please let us know how it goes.
Yeah, bless you. Well, thank you so much for all your inspiration. It's great to listen to and watch the videos. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. How about anybody else? Anybody else have any questions? Please take your phone off mute and ask away.
Dr. Hetrich?
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead and talk again. Hopefully I'm not walking over somebody, and I apologize if I am. My question is quick. This is Carolyn in Dallas again. I'm talking about the importance, and I've been reading so much about the importance of enzymes. And in your video, after you harvest your seeds or whatever you say that they can survive in the little mason jars when they're dry up to 5 days, do the enzymes survive in that refrigerated state for the duration of those 5 days, Dr. Hetrich?
You mean for the sprouts?
Yes, sir.
Yes, they do, as a matter of fact. In fact, refrigeration does not destroy any nutrients when we're talking about sprouts. When you put sprouts in the refrigerator, they simply go into a state of suspended animation. They think it's got really cold outside. In fact, if you're growing sprouts and you grow them, say, halfway, and then you have to go away for a few days for the weekend, you can place your halfway grown sprouts in the refrigerator, and then when you come back a couple of days later, take them out of the refrigerator, start watering again, and they'll start growing again as though nothing ever happened. This is the evidence that enzymes are maintained, or they're not damaged by refrigeration. However, you don't want to freeze your sprouts. Freezing will kill your sprouts, and it will destroy enzymes. Freezing, on average, destroys about 50% of the nutrients in food, depending upon how long you freeze them for. But that's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Brian, do we have time for one more question, or would you like to close the call? Just let me know.
Let's do one more question. Anybody else? I think I heard somebody else speaking up.
Hi, Brian. This is Beatrice down in Titusville, Florida.
Hi, Beatrice.
Hi. I'm taking the online course. I've been to one of your seminars on sprouting down at Hippocrates before, and I got all your stuff. I got 3 questions for you. They're quick.
Yeah. Okay.
One would be, do you know a good source where we could order spirulina starter from so we can grow the spirulina at home ourselves?
Yes. Well, you can get it from rawlivingspirulina.com. They will send you a starter culture of spirulina. In fact, if you buy the raw living spirulina, it's nothing special. You just want to get the raw living spirulina, and then you add it to water, and you need to have it has to be high alkaline water, so you do this with sodium bicarbonate. Get the pH up to 10. And it also has to be warm. So ideally you want the temperature of the water to be, somewhere around 85 to 90 degrees, and it needs light. And it needs movement. So you want to either if you have an aquarium, I've done this at home myself. I've grown my own spirulina at home. You just get a fish aquarium, and you get a couple of heaters, a regular aquarium heater, and set the temperature up to 90 degrees. And then you need a bubbler system. So you get like one of these tube kind of bubbler systems. And what that does, that moves the water, and then you want to put it in a really, really well-lit area. And you want to put a screen over it so bugs can't get inside.
Right. Okay, good. Yeah, I just wondered about the source. I'm halfway there. I started putting pieces together, and I got the aquarium set up and ready to go. So, know that Tim was selling the starter as well. Well, thank you. That's good. I will call him and find it out. Another question I have is when you use regular water from the hose, say you want to use the garden hose outside, is there a specific water filter that you could recommend that would attach to the hose, or a certain system that we should run the water through?
Yes, absolutely. Well, of course, I'm going to recommend everybody get a really, really high-quality whole house water filtration system, but that can be kind of an investment. So if you're not ready for making that kind of investment, a good solution for your hose is what's called an inline recreational vehicle hose filter. And they sell these at Walmart, and they sell them at outdoor stores like Bass Pro Shops or Gander Mountain, or they sell them at a RV or a recreational vehicle center that has a store that has supplies. And this is literally about 1.5 feet long, and it's about 4 inches in diameter. It's a round cylindrical tube that has a hose connection on both ends, a male on one end and a female on the other end. So you can literally put this water filter in line with your existing garden hose at the spigot or at the hose bib. And this is not perfect, but it's better than nothing. It's a good start. This is what campers use for their motorhomes when they go camping, for vacation. When they go to campsites, they put this at the water connection so they can drink and shower and prepare meals with filtered water. And it uses carbon, which is very effective, and it's not 100% effective, but it's very effective at removing most of the chlorine, if not, probably 95% or higher, and a few of the other contaminants that are in the water. And they're relatively inexpensive, so you can get them for about $35.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, because that leads to my third question. I have a Berkey water filter, and it gets a lot of refilling in order to get the water out. And I know this is a bit off topic on this call, but you do the water filtration, and I have not heard you talk about a Berkey system. Do you have any opinion on that?
I love the Berkey system. I think it's an excellent water filtration system. I would support it 100%. Again, it's not perfect. I don't really think I've found any water filtration system that is 100% perfect, but some are clearly better than others. And I think the Berkey system is right up there at the top of the pack, or one of the better ones out there. And I like it because if it's the one that I'm thinking of, it's a stainless steel housing, isn't it? Do you have the stainless steel? Yes. I like that, and I think that the technology they use inside is very effective as well. And to be clear, you don't have to have filtered water in order to successfully grow sprouts and wheatgrass. You can use regular tap water and it will still grow. You can use water from the lake and it will still grow. You can use canal water and it will still grow. The purity of the water doesn't stop the sprouts from growing, but you want to use filtered water or purified water as much as possible for the same reason that we want to drink purified water and filtered water as much as possible, because you don't want these contaminants that are potentially in the city tap water or in other less than pure water sources on your food. You don't want it on your sprouts.
Okay. So I think that the sprouts will
Brian. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for being generous with your time. It's just above and beyond. We really appreciate it. I want everyone to know that Brian is a really unique opportunity to spend a few days with Brian and ask him questions to your heart's content. He's holding a retreat in the very near future. Brian, for more information about private consults and the retreat that you're holding, where should people go?
Thank you for reminding me, Jen. That's a great point. So the retreat I'm very excited about, it's September 24th through October 1st. It's going to be in Hot Springs, North Carolina. This is really going to be a lot of fun. It's in the magical Blue Ridge Mountains. The retreat center has 16 beds in it, and there's 5 bathrooms. There's an infrared sauna. We're going to have all raw foods. We're going to be growing sprouts. We're going to have green drinks. There's going to be rebounding. There's going to be yoga. We're going to be soaking in hot mineral springs at a nearby resort, and we're going to be having raw Living Spirulina every day, and we're going to have fresh green Florida coconut water, and we're actually the retreat center is on a 62-acre property, which adjoins about 1,000 acres of natural wildlife preserve right in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains of the Appalachians. So it's in a very secluded, very peaceful, very serene environment. We're going to be right on the edge of the fall leaves changing color. So it's going to be a really gorgeous, magical time, a healing time. So if you would like to try the raw living spirulina every day for a week, if you'd like to spend time with some of the world's top health experts, including myself, we're going to have educational classes every day. If you'd like to relax and rejuvenate and just kind of reset yourself, rawlivingspirulina.com. If you go to that website, there's a button there there's retreat. It'll tell you all the information about it. So I hope to meet some of you there if you can make it. We're about half sold out. So if you can make it, then you probably want to try to sign up soon. So that's
Thank you, Brian. And then rawlivingspirulina.com.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and then if people wanted to reach out to you who had additional questions or who wanted to work with you, what's the best way for people to contact you, Brian?
Great question. Brian Hetrich at gmail.com. So no spaces, no periods, just Brian Hetrich, BrianHetrich at gmail.com. And, I do private consultations and, with meal planning and with, health challenges, overcoming health challenges and, setting up a healthy kitchen and, and weight loss, whatever your needs might happen to be.
Yeah, you are such a wealth of knowledge. It's just such an honor that we've been able to spend this time with you. So thank you so much. If anyone has additional questions and you didn't reach Brian, you can always reach out to me and I can connect you. And so thank you so much, everyone, for being here today.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.